As we explore the Holy Land, particularly the Lebanon Mountains, it's essential to consider the biblical context of destruction and desolation. The prophecies in Jeremiah 9 verse 11 and Luke 19 verses 43 to 44 foretold the devastation of Jerusalem and Judah due to the sins of the Israelites. These prophecies were fulfilled in the Babylonian exile, 586 BCE, and the Roman destruction, 70 CE. The consequences of sin had far-reaching effects on the land and its people. Keeping this historical and biblical context in mind will provide valuable insight as we study the Lebanon Mountains and their significance in the Bible. Joshua 13 verses 5 to 6. And the land of the Giblites and all Lebanon, toward the sun rising from Baalgad under Mount Hermon unto the entering into Hamath. All the inhabitants of the hill country from Lebanon unto Misrephoth-maim, and all the Sidonians, them will I drive out from before the children of Israel. Only divide thou it by lot unto the Israelites for an inheritance, as I have commanded thee. These verses describe the boundaries of the promised land, including the mountains of Lebanon, which were yet to be conquered by the Israelites. 1 Kings 5 verse 6 and 1 Kings 7 verse 2. And now command thou that they cut me cedar trees out of Lebanon, and my servants shall be with thy servants, and unto thee will I give hire for thy servants according to all that thou shalt appoint. For thou knowest that there is not among us any that can skill to cut timber like unto the Sidonians. And he built the porch of pillars. The length thereof was 50 cubits, and the breadth thereof 30 cubits. And the porch was before them, and the other pillars and the thick beam were before them. These verses describe King Solomon's request for cedar trees from Lebanon to build the temple and the construction of the temple's porch. Psalm 29 verses 5 to 6. The voice of the Lord breaketh the cedars. Yea, the Lord breaketh the cedars of Lebanon. He mocketh them also to skip like a calf, Lebanon and Saron like a young unicorn. This psalm describes God's powerful voice, which breaks the mighty cedars of Lebanon and makes the mountains skip like a young animal, highlighting God's majesty and power. Song of Solomon 4 verses 8 and 11 and 15. Come with me from Lebanon, my spouse, with me from Lebanon. Look from the top of Amana, from the top of Shinir and Hermon, from the lions' dens, from the mountains of the leopards. The smell of thy garments is like the smell of Lebanon. A fountain of gardens, a well of living waters and streams from Lebanon. These verses are poetic descriptions of love and beauty, using the mountains of Lebanon as a symbol of majesty and splendor. These verses showcase Lebanon as a symbol of natural beauty, strength and God's power, often in the context of the Promised Land, temple construction, or poetic descriptions of love and beauty. Isaiah 2 verse 13. And upon all the cedars of Lebanon, that are high and lifted up, and upon all the oaks of Bashan. This verse is part of a prophecy about God's judgment on the proud and lofty. The cedars of Lebanon symbolize strength and grandeur, and God's judgment will bring them low. Isaiah 10 verse 34. And he shall cut down the thickets of the forest with iron, and Lebanon shall fall by a mighty one. This verse describes God's judgment on Assyria, using the imagery of cutting down the thick forests of Lebanon. The mighty one refers to God's powerful action. Isaiah 14 verse 8. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, Since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us. This verse is part of a taunt against the king of Babylon, describing how the cedars of Lebanon rejoice at his downfall. Isaiah 29 verse 17. Is it not yet a very little while, and Lebanon shall be turned into a fruitful field, and the fruitful field shall be esteemed as a forest? This verse describes a future transformation where Lebanon's wilderness will become fruitful. Isaiah 33 verse 9. The earth mourneth and languisheth, Lebanon is ashamed and hewn down, Sharon is like a wilderness, and Bashan and Carmel shake off their fruits. This verse describes a time of judgment and desolation, where Lebanon is ashamed and cut down. This is it. As you look at this mountain, it is bare, without vegetation. The prophecy was fulfilled. Isaiah 35 verse 2. It shall blossom abundantly, and rejoice even with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given unto it, the excellency of Carmel and Sharon. They shall see the glory of the Lord, and the excellency of our God. This verse describes a future time of restoration and joy, where Lebanon's glory will be restored. This is not yet fulfilled. It will be fulfilled at the second coming of Jesus. These verses showcase Lebanon as a symbol of strength, beauty, and God's power, often in the context of judgment, restoration, or transformation. Jeremiah 18 verse 14. Will a man leave the snow of Lebanon which cometh from the rock of the field? Or shall the cold flowing waters that come from another place be forsaken? Jeremiah uses the snow of Lebanon as a metaphor to describe the unlikelihood of God's people forsaking their faith. Just as the snow of Lebanon is a natural and reliable phenomenon, God's people should remain faithful. Ezekiel 17 verses 3-4. And say, Thus saith the Lord God, a great eagle with great wings, long-winged, full of feathers, which had diverse colors, came unto Lebanon, and took the highest branch of the cedar. He cropped off the top of his young twigs and carried it into a land of traffic. He set it in a city of merchants. Ezekiel uses the cedars of Lebanon in a parable to describe the kingdoms of Judah and Babylon. The eagle represents Babylon, and the cedar represents Judah. The parable highlights God's judgment on Judah for its rebellion. Zechariah 10 verse 10. And I will bring them again also out of the land of Egypt, and will gather them out of Assyria, and I will bring them into the land of Gilead and Lebanon, and place shall not be found for them. Zechariah mentions Lebanon in the context of God's plan to restore his people. God promises to gather his people from exile and bring them back to their homeland, which includes the region of Lebanon. This verse highlights God's redemption and restoration. These verses showcase Lebanon as a symbol of natural beauty, strength, and God's power, often in the context of metaphors, parables, or prophecies about God's relationship with his people. The church did not replace Israel. The 12 children of Jacob, the nation of Israel. They are scattered all over the world, enduring hardship and persecution. But God's promise to restore Israel, his covenant nation, remains steadfast. He will gather his people from global exile, fulfilling his covenant with Abraham. Ezekiel's prophecy of the dry bones, Ezekiel 37, symbolizes Israel's national revival, promising resurrection and restoration. This prophecy underscores God's enduring commitment to his people and his covenant promises. Now you know where the true biblical Lebanon Mountains are. Stay connected for more in-depth explorations of the biblical Holy Land. Subscribe and like to receive updates on future studies, insights, and analyses. Join the journey to uncover the rich history, prophecies, and significance of this sacred region. Thank you to Jerusalem Script Channel for providing well-researched insights. For more in-depth explorations of the Holy Land's true location, check out Jerusalem Script YouTube channel.
Thanks for watching. May the truth set you free and bring you closer to God, Elohim. Until next time, stay enlightened.